subject. It's Tookie Williams, Raymond Washington, and karmic debt. So I've been reading a lot about karmic debt, because a lot of stuff happens to people that are, one of the most least expected things to happen. And you be wondering, like, why are some people's lives a little rougher and a little harder than others. And I started, doing a little bit more research on it and stuff like that. So there's this particular book that I read that I've been reading, and it's called Energy Healing by Monique Wagner. And this book got like 345 techniques in it of strategies about, learning about transformation of your spirituality and unlocking cosmic energies and things like that of that nature. But they have a particular chapter in that book about karmic debt. And with karmic debt, uh, these people that have karmic debt, if they come into this lifetime with karmic debt, they're not going to have ordinary lives and they're going to have a rough life. But it's something I guess they signed up for. I'm a person, I'm still trying to figure out, the belief system of, having a past life anyway. Sometimes I think that could be like a relative from your, ancestors or something, and they might have did something. So now, whatever they did, since you are now their descendant, you have to finish their debt for them. That's what I kind of believe. But, that's neither here nor there. But, this situation with Tookie Williams and Raymond Washington, it's like bigger than what you would think. It's like really bigger than what you would think, especially for young black men and young black women in this country, in America. And who would ever thought in the city of angels that all of this would have happened over the last 40 plus years, 40, 50 plus years? I never thought anything like that would have ever happened, but it did. So, like, look, for instance, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to come up with a karmic debt number. So, a karmic debt number is numbers 13, 14, 16, and 19. And you probably wonder, how do you come up with those numbers? Well, you had to add up your birthday, your birth month, and your birth year all together. And if it comes out to like 19, say 16, 14, 13, if it comes out to those totals, then you have karmic debt. And all these different numbers are, you know, 13 is a different karmic debt life path than 19 is. So, like, for instance, I'm going to show you real quick how you can get this number, but I'm going to use these two guys as an example. So, obviously, from the little background I know about Tookie Williams and Raymond Washington, they had rough lives, rough lifestyles, rough upbringings. Their life wasn't ever smooth, ever. Um, they were like pretty much put in, hell, pretty much. And they had to figure stuff out while being in hell. And that's something that you usually, anybody that's a kid growing up in that kind of environment, the results of you really being really successful are very slim, almost none. But one thing about this is with karmic debt is that I'm starting to, believe in is that you can either do good or bad with the karmic debt. You can either make it right or you can make it more wrong. It's really up to you. And it's all up to you. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, so I'm gonna go ahead and show this, particular. So, like, right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to come up with the karmic debt number. So we're gonna do Raymond Washington first. So Raymond Washington, he was born on August 14th, 1953. So 14, and that's already a karmic number right there alone. But that's not necessarily what your life path will be. but his birth month is right here, August, and then his birth year will be 1953. So you calculate that. So right here, it says this number relates to laziness, selfishness, and narcissism in the past life. You are someone who finds it difficult to appreciate others and is quick to play the blame game. So often you are perceived as stubborn and controlling. Your karma is to hold yourself accountable, accept your shortcomings, and work over the weak areas of your personality. That is a real big deal. A real big deal, in my opinion. It really is. And, Raymond Washington, he was known as a real tough street fighter, but he was also known as a bully. A lot of people in his neighborhood said he did protect us from other people, but he bullied us. And he had a very, very great, power over people. He was like a strong leader, very inspirational leader. But see, those things that he had, that came with his karmic debt. So it was like he already was this person. He was going to be this person anyway. But his main thing he was supposed to do on this life path while he was here, he was supposed to hold himself accountable, accept his shortcomings, and work over the weak areas of his personality. And obviously, he did not do that. Now, the conditions that you're in, you can definitely say the conditions you're in. He didn't have a chance to learn any of this kind of stuff. And I guarantee he probably didn't even know about any of this stuff himself at all. Because, that's another thing. There's only one way. And I believe there's several different ways you can get information to make your life better. It ain't just one way. And if he probably knew this, maybe there could have been a chance he changed some stuff differently. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But the impact that he left, it not only impacted his family, it impacted generations of people in Los Angeles and then beyond. Because when the gang started spreading, it went crazy, especially in the 80s. It went all over to big cities, major cities. I'm guaranteed there's probably a Crip gang in every city in America. Guaranteed. And I believe there are some in other countries. Like I believe Africa even has them as well. And it was all because of he was 17 years old. This was the mind of a 17-year-old. And they're like bastards of the party, of the Black Panther Party. So watching those men who were leading a great cause, by the way, the Black Panthers, that's why they were taken out, because they were leading a great cause. So if this is what Raymond Washington is seeing and looking at, this is what he's going to end up trying to emulate himself, but he's going to do it his way, not exactly like they did. But obviously he did not use this the correct way, and he abused his power. He abused his power what he was really supposed to do. And albeit in 1979, that's when he came to his demise. He was shot in his stomach at point blank range with a shotgun. And the thing about it is he went up to a car and they said police, even the police and people that he knew close, said he would never go up to a car if he did not know the person. Obviously, he knew the person and he was killed and he was taken out. And at this particular point in his life, I believe he was veering away from what he helped create because it was getting more violent. And I think that's probably why he was killed. He didn't have the power that he once had on the streets no more. It was done. And pretty much he was like, the devil was pretty much using him just for that reason. And he took him out of the situation. Like, that's how I feel about that situation, in my opinion. And if he had used his mind, his power, his strength in the most positive way, I don't think we'll be sitting here today, like with gangs like being like how they are, and where you got generations of gangs where you don't have generations of Black Panthers. Black Panthers, in my opinion, were like one of the most unique individuals that came together ever. especially for Black Americans in this country. But this is something that has gone on for over 50 years now. And I mean, it's been generations of different gang members that have come and gone. And, they've lost their lives to this, whether they've died or went to prison. They done lost their lives for this. But that's him. That's his life path right there. But you got to also remember, this is how karma works. So karma, they love to highlight you at your worst. Karma loves to highlight you at your worst. So this death of Raymond Washington, it was highlighted all over Los Angeles, South Central Los Angeles. Everybody knew about it. It was an impactful death because he helped create this particular gang. And the fact that he was killed in that manner, it spread like wildfire what happened to him. But that's what karma wanted. They wanted to show, yes, like pretty much karma came to collect. Because it seems like if you're not getting it right the way karma wants you to, then it comes and swoops in a way that you ain't expecting. And people usually with these life paths that I have noticed, they usually die very tragic deaths. And they're like very, under a microscope. Everybody's going to know about it. But this is this particular individual, for Raymond Washington. A lot of stuff came out after this, but this was particularly his situation. So now I'm going to do Stanley Tookie Williams. And he was born December 29th, 1953, I believe. Yeah. So let's do that one. And see right here, he also had karmic debt. His life path is 5. The karmic debt number is 14. So it says if you have the karmic debt number 14 as your number, then you are someone who may be dominating, have a lack of self-control, and have commitment issues. Your past life may have seen you exploit freedom through overindulgence and breaking boundaries. Therefore, your karma is to develop self-introspection, vulnerability, and self-discipline. So with Tookie Williams, obviously the part about being dominating, that was very true about him. He was a dominating figure at the early days of the Crips formation. Everybody noticed his strength. He was like a huge, if you've ever seen Craig Munson, who was, man, that guy was built like I have not ever seen a lot of people built. I'm pretty sure Craig Munson, he was definitely an influence for Stanley Williams for that regard of being bodybuilding and stuff like that, But Stanley Tookie Williams was known to be a dominating force in the early stages of the Crips gang. So that right there is very true. Now, lack of self-control, I can see that too. Obviously, Tookie Williams became addicted to PCP. And that was like a downfall for him. That, when you're addicted to drugs, that's a lack of self-control. You're not controlling yourself no more. The drugs is controlling you. And having commitment issues, I mean, that could be, his dealings with, women in his lifetime. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure about that, but like all those things make sense to me, But if you have commitment issues and you don't have self-control, they go hand in hand. So I can see that. Now, what he was supposed to do, it was right there. He was supposed to develop self-introspection, vulnerability, and self-discipline. So obviously, if you're dominating all these other gangs and you're like, dominating them and beat them up, and then you're pretty much swallowing up those gangs, and you're making this one big gang with Raymond Washington as well. Y'all are both neck and neck doing the same thing. When you're doing the same thing, like you're not really paying attention to it, while you're doing it. But, they had these karmic debt numbers. So everything that they did, like it was just magnified. Everybody knew about it. And then in Tookie Williams' case, they had an article called The Baddest. It featured him along with three other Crip gang members. It featured him in a newspaper article. And they were talking about, the rise of this particular gang. That's going to fuel more of your dominating presence in your mind. That's going to fuel more, more problems, in my opinion, which it did, because now they're highlighting what you're doing, which is wrong. So if a newspaper article is highlighting you, what do you expect you're going to continue to do? You're going to continue to do what you want to do. And that's exactly what happened. So, all of a sudden, they had more fights. They beating other gangs up. But now the killing comes into play. Taking people out. That's where it gets really, really bad. So now, if you have a lack of self-control, you're not controlling yourself. You can't control the gang no more. The drug is controlling you now. And the drug is going to make you do things that you probably would have never done. And obviously, there were some crimes that happened that I don't really want to get into. But it ended up ending his life, pretty much. And it was 1979 as well. And those crimes sent him to prison for the rest of his life. But this is where his karma didn't come like how Raymond Washington's came. Raymond Washington's came, and I just think that the karma was like he's not going to get it right or something, probably. And that karma came right there at that moment. In Tookie Williams' case, he started developing self-introspection, vulnerability, and self-discipline. He became a Nobel Peace Prize winner. I mean, I don't know if he was a winner, but he was nominated multiple times for a Nobel Peace Prize. And, he was given hell. When he first did get incarcerated, they said he was given hell to all prisoners and everything like that. He was given hell to all of them. And he was put into solitary confinement. And he was in there, I believe, for 5 years. But that's where he finally woke up. He had to finally wake up in a cell. And from that cell, he was able to start writing books, writing children's books, creating peace protocols for, gangs not to be doing this stuff. And if you were about peace and trying to stop this and end this violence, it was a peace protocol that was in his book that you could sign and you just had to adhere to it, And look, he was still showing the leadership right there in a positive way. And he was doing this from a cell, which was incredible to even be doing that. And yes, he might have did all those wrong things in the past, but one thing about this world is that everybody has a right to redemption, and you can get it right. But once you get it right, you got to stay right. That's the only thing. And nobody in here in this world can be like judgmental of anybody if they're trying to get it right. And I love when I see people who've been doing wrong, and then all of a sudden they finally wake up and then they just start doing everything right and understanding what they did was wrong. I love when they got that comprehension of that. And I love when they actually go ahead and do that. So with Tookie Williams' case, let me see if I could find that here. I'm going to see if I could find that where he went and did all these different things. So let me see if I can find that, and I'll show you all the stuff he did while he was incarcerated and why that's important in my opinion. So in my opinion, this is important because look, it says right here, Stanley Tookie Williams, co-founder of the Crips gang, was a multiple Nobel Peace Prize nominee for his efforts to reduce gang violence and promote peace, particularly while incarcerated on death row. So he became a gang leader to a peace advocate. Nobel Peace Prize nominations, international recognition. People started recognizing him around the world. And, you know, obviously his execution happened in 2005, December 2005. And there's controversy behind that, about, you know, behind him is and his death. Also just about what he did with his life early on. But see, this is what I'm talking about, how karma works. He started doing it later. And I think he paid his debt with karma, in my opinion, with this. But he did do his wrong, and he had to pay for those things as well at the same time. But it just imagine if he doesn't wake up while he's in them cells, if he doesn't wake up, wake his mind up, none of this stuff that I'm reading even happens. And we probably never would really know the true story about their origin of the gang and the reasons why they created the gang. We would have never known these things at all if he didn't wake up. And that's something I got to give him a lot of respect for. You know, he took accountability for himself in a dark place, a very dark place, a dangerous dark place. And he was able to do all these things while he was incarcerated. That's very impressive in my book. And nobody should ever, ever, you know, feel bad about those kind of things, you know, in my opinion. Um, but with Stanley Tookie Williams, his death was magnified. But that's what I said, karma comes calling for you. His death was magnified in a ways. What I'm saying is it was magnified. You know, it was plastered all over national TV. Everybody was wondering if he was going to get a stay of execution. It was magnified in a way that, you know, like I haven't ever seen too many executions magnified like that. But it happened. And unfortunately, he didn't get a stay. And he knew he said for all the stuff he had did previously, he knew he was wrong for those things. And he didn't want to be let out free. He just said, just you can give me and commute me to life. And he would have been okay with that. But I'm telling you, that karma, this karmic debt thing, is for real. And I believe it came calling, in my opinion. Like, it just came calling for him. So, like, I'm going to show you this. And this is like both of them. You know, this is who both of them are. So it was seeming like when they had these karmic debt numbers, they came together and formed a very powerful, dominating, forceful union. This union created generations of different gangs from this one particular union. I don't even think they realized the power they had at that moment in time. I don't really think they realized that power. But in my opinion, I just think that it could have been a different way. If they were educated enough, if they had the comprehension skills of knowing what all these different kind of things are, karmic debt, you know, how life is going to be, if they had better adults around them to guide them in the right directions and stuff like that, I don't think we see what we see today. I really don't. Do I think probably, you know, there might still be gangs? Yes, but not in the way that it is today. I really truly believe that it would have been a totally different situation. I really believe this. Like, just from reading about this karmic debt and how it works. And you could just read that right there. And I hopefully, you know, people that actually knew them, if they read those things, they'll be like, oh man, that sounds just like how they were or something. But I'm just going off of what I have been told and what, you know, I've heard on TV videos of Reddit. You know, I have his book. I have this book right here. I still read this book all the time. And then Raymond Washington's book, you know, he has a book as well, but that's not written from him. That's written by somebody else. But this one is written by Tookie Williams himself. And it's a very great book if you get it. Blue Rage, Black Redemption. But in my opinion, I just personally believe that none of that would have happened the way it did. Things probably still would have been, something else would have came along. I'm pretty sure. But these two with this particular power, I don't think it happens like that. If they had somebody to guide them, because they had the leadership. Obviously, that was clear. They had the leadership. They were very powerful, very influential, and people still talk about them to this day. But they were tragically taken away. Very two tragic situations. One was longer than the other one. They were both born in 1953, but one left in 1979. Well, they both left in 1979. They both left society in 1979. But one was taken in 2005 on an execution. But Tookie Williams, if he doesn't wake up while he's incarcerated, none of the stuff about this book doesn't exist at all. None of those children books exist at all. Nobel Peace Prize nominee doesn't exist at all. So I'm just glad that he was able to wake up at that point in his life. And I believe he did help. He at that particular time before his execution, in that time period when he was doing those things, I believe he did help those individuals that were looking to change. He did help some of them. It's still a lot out there that is doing the games, and all that stuff. It's still a lot of them out there doing it. But there are a few that did hear his words and they did change. But yeah, both of these individuals, in my opinion, they had power that they really had no idea of what they were going to be doing with themselves. They really didn't. And that is something that I think a lot of people need to really start looking at and realizing about yourselves too. So, like, if you want to see if you had karmic debt, I suggest you do that. Like I said, just add up your birthday, birth month, and birth year. Add those three things up. If it comes out to 13, 14, 16, or 19, then your life path is karmic debt. And it would explain why your life is a little rough and you're wondering why things be happening to you all the time. There's certain things you got to come here to learn. And if you learn those things, I think it can balance out your life. I don't think it'd be like extremely better, but it ain't going to be bad like this. Like the outcomes of these two men, it was supposed to be a different outcome, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. And, rest in peace to both of them. And also, I like to say rest in peace to all victims of the violence, period. Like, this was something that went astray. And it should have never happened like that, in my opinion. But it did. It happened. And that's all you can say about it now. But yes, I just wanted to really talk about this. It was, pretty much on my mind for a while. So, yes, Tookie Williams, Raymond Washington, and Karmic Debt. So, yeah, if you have it, you probably should check it out. Make sure, if you do have it, you fix things about yourself. Like, because they don't know when karma's coming. And obviously they didn't. So, figure some stuff out. And I'll talk about karmic debt more. I really will. Especially with how the other numbers work. But these two individuals, look at them. It makes perfect sense to me why their deaths were magnified and they died tragically because of this. That's just my opinion. But yes, make sure you hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you to all the subscribers. I'm at a little over 700. I'm almost to that 1,000. But, I enjoy doing these videos and doing research on individuals like this. And, hopefully, you learn something from it as well, what I have brought to you. And until next time, from Nice with Ricky, peace.